Hey guys, this is Jeff with the Embroidery Nerd, and today we're going to be looking at a couple different pieces of software, and we're going to be looking at the outputs that we get from the software, as well as the differences of when we import artwork. Let's go ahead and get started. So I have Pulse DG16 up right now, but the first thing I want to do is I'm going to bring up Corel. So this is a single, like a block font. It's been converted to curves here. And if I go into Node Edit, you can see the different nodes that we have and kind of how they're spaced out here. Now I can make that bigger on the screen for you guys so you can see the different nodes. Now I've exported this as an SVG, and I'm going to bring it into the different softwares, and we're going to look at how each software processes the nodes. And then I have already converted this in each software to stitch files, object files with stitch properties. We're going to export out each of the files, and then from there we're going to look at the outputs that we get after we bring them back into each software. So the first software that I will bring it into is going to be Pulse DG16, and this is a pretty simple process. I can just go here to import artwork, and I can find my file. I can open it up right there. Let's take a look at the size of it here. And we're roughly 10 millimeters tall. And if you notice, I have these red dots going around each of these, and we'll go back and look at our original in Corel. And let's see if I can do multiple at a time, and I can't. You notice how each node there laid out matches what we have in Pulse, which is really nice. That gives us a clean vector to digitize off of. Now we'll go ahead and open it up in Embroidery Studio. To do that, I actually need to move into Corel mode because I can't open an SVG file, or I haven't figured out how to open an SVG file directly from the user interface. So we'll go here and we'll go File and Import. And let me jump over to my SVG. We have it there. Again, we'll just double check here. We can look at the nodes of each of the objects. We'll look at the S here, and you can see we just have a few nodes there. We've got a few more on the T, some on the E, and of course our different objects. So now we can jump back to Wilcom Workspace, and we'll go ahead and look at the different aspects. So the T came in well. The E, it added a few more nodes, it looks like. Let's just double compare here. And I'll go into Node Edit. So we have 2 nodes here, 2 nodes here, 2 nodes here. And if we jump back to Wilcom here, you can see that it added some new nodes in, and it doesn't look like our lines match exactly, which is pretty interesting. The same here with this S. Again, it wasn't able to follow the lines exactly. And of course we have our T, which it looks like it did a better job. But it is interesting that it wasn't able to follow the lines exactly. I was not expecting that. Now we will jump over to Melco Design Shop, and we can just go to File and Open. And we can jump down to our SVG, and we can hit Open. And we are going to go to View, and we will zoom to fit. And it did not handle the E or the S or the T like I was expecting. And I'm not sure how we're going to move on in this software, so we'll go ahead and just minimize this one. And then I have Chroma here, and I will just go to Open, and we will go to Desktop and jump here, and we'll open the SVG, and we will look in the Node Edit view here, and it looks like this pulled. So that's the difference that we see when we open the SVG in the softwares. Now, all of them should be roughly the same height. Let's go ahead and just double check the height here. And that is, it needs to go up just slightly. Nope. I need to select all of the letters. Let's get all of the letters. So with all the letters selected, we're at 10 millimeters. In Wilcom, we need to be at 10 millimeters. And in DG, jump there, we are at 10 millimeters. So that's bringing in each of the files into the software. So now we'll just go ahead and we'll jump to my text compare file. So this is after I converted it into stitches and assigned stitch properties. Now, if we look here, we can see we have a nice flowing curve here of the stitches in Wilcom going around each of the corners. They follow very nicely the outline that we have. And again, with the T, you can see we have this nice following here. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to export this file as a machine file, and we are going to do it up here, and we'll do a new folder, and we'll just say machine files. And we'll go in there, and we will do as DST files. And that will be text compare. And we'll just do Wilcom here so that we know which one it is. And we'll save that there. And we'll let it export the design. So it'll export. There we go. Now we'll go to the Ricoma Chroma, and I have it as design 2 here. And let's go ahead and I'll select some of the nodes, and you can see here if I go into the outline view that this 2, it follows those nodes the line really nicely, and it moves around. And again here on the S and the T. So it seems to follow those very well. We'll go File, Save As, we'll go into Machine Files, and we will do a DST. And we will call this text compare Chroma, and we'll save that as a DST. And now we will go into Pulse, and I have it here. And you can see actually how these protrude out just a little bit. So in the other softwares, I was only able to set the grid at 1 millimeter, where in Pulse I was able to set it at 0.1 millimeter, which is typically the resolution of a pantograph. So as we look at these needle penetrations, you can see how they're falling on crosshairs here at the resolution of a pantograph. So when this goes to the machine, this should be exactly what we would expect to see looking in the software. So I'm going to go ahead and go File, we'll save as, and I'm going to go into Machine Files, and we'll save this as a DST as well. And we'll do text Pulse. And we'll go ahead and hit save. So the next thing I want to do is I want to go in here and I want to say File, Merge, and we're going to bring in those text compares files that we actually got, and we're going to lay them on top of the existing art. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Open here, and I will stamp that right there. This one I'm going to lock so I can't accidentally select it, and this one we'll go ahead and just bring it up here, and we'll lay it right on top. And as you can see, I'll move it off a little bit there so we can see it, and I'm going to move it right back into position. And as you can see, the needle penetrations line up exactly. So we are getting the exact output in this file that we saw in the render when it rendered the stitches, which is really cool, because now we'll know when we're coming into a corner if all of these stitches here are bunching up too much and we're going to have an issue. And it's amazing to see that when you line up the stitch file directly on top of the object file, that all of the stitches do in fact line up exactly. We'll go into the Chroma software, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the select tool, and I'll grab that, and I'm going to lock this as well because I don't want it to move. And we'll go File, and we will go to Merge, and we will bring in the DST from Chroma, and we will try and line this up exactly here. So I'm going to move a couple of stitches, and so I'm actually looking at this line right here, and I'm attempting to line it up. And as I line up the stitch file, it's not lining up exactly to what it rendered on the screen. You can see that they've actually moved a little bit. Some have went out a little bit further. Some have come in a little bit further, but for the most part, they don't line up exactly. So that shows me that what we're getting when we export is that the software is rendering out, and it actually converted this to objects. So let's grab everything here, and when we brought it back in, it converted it to objects. I'm gonna, oops, one too many deletes. We'll lock that again, and I just want to delete the blue color. We'll File, and we'll say Merge again, and we'll see if we have the ability, right here, we have the ability to take out the convert to outline. So let's bring it back in, and now it should bring it in as a singular stitch object. And that's what I show if I click off of it and I grab it again. So that's going to bring in the exact stitches that's in the DST file, and it's not going to convert it to objects. And in trying to line up this one stitch, we can see how the needle penetrations have moved slightly and it's not lining up. So it's adjusted the stitch penetration locations after we exported the file, and it's not giving us a direct lineup. Okay, and just for kicks and giggles, I'm going to do a ruler here, and I'm going to just go between those 2 points, and it's 0.1 millimeter. We'll go between these 2 points, and it's 0.1 millimeter. Again, these 2 points, 0.1 millimeters. So what it's doing is it's exporting the DST file, it's adjusting the file to the resolution of the pantograph, and it's changing the needle penetrations. So what that means for me is if I'm having an issue in the file and I want to know exactly where my needle penetrations are falling, I'm not going to see that in the object file. I'm going to have to import the DST file and try and make adjustments from there. So what I see when I'm digitizing isn't necessarily what I'm getting when I'm exporting out the file. We'll jump into Wilcom, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do File, and we're going to say Import Embroidery, and we'll jump up to my desktop, and we will go to Videos, Machine Files, and we will grab the Wilcom DST. I'm going to make sure that it does not change anything into objects, so it's going to bring in sitting directly on top. So let's go ahead and we'll take a look here. And what we can see here is I have selected, so in the pink is the DST file, and as you can see, it doesn't follow the curves exactly either. It is moving, and I'm going to change this to a different color. We'll go with black, and I will unselect it. So as you can see, it's moving the needle penetrations here, here. It does look like the objects do line up, but it is moving the needle penetrations after it is saving. And again, if we measure the distance between the objects, we've got a 0.18 there, we've got a 0.15, we've got a 0.12, so approximately a 0.1 millimeter difference in there. It varies a little bit, but again, it's not giving me the exact image that I was expecting when I saved out the file. When I save out the file, I expect my needle penetrations, what I see on screen is what I'm going to get on the machine. So it's definitely not what you see is what you're going to get, but it does move some of the needle penetrations, and if I want to see where the penetrations are actually going to fall exactly, I have to export the file and import the embroidery back in. So it's interesting to see the differences between the software on how it imports the vector file, how it adjusts the vector file in some cases, and how it converts it to stitches, and when we send those out to the machine that we're getting a different input than what we would expect. Definitely something that I will want to cover a little bit more in seeing the differences between the software. If you guys enjoyed the content, please give us a like and subscribe. If you want to, you can check us out on Facebook at The Embroidery Nerd, or jump over to our Discord and join our conversation. Thank you guys for hanging out with me, and we'll catch you next time.